The movie begins on a bright sunny morning of Washington, D.C. Inside a house, the radio is delivering a news report at 6:45 in the morning. Ellington the dog barks to wake up Jefferson, who then rises from the bed and prepares himself to go to work. On his way to work, he walks downstairs and sees an old lady who is speaking loudly, gossiping about the life of others through her friend via telephone call. Jefferson flashes a great smile toward her for greeting. Behind the old lady is an open door. Jefferson laughs quietly, looking inside, seeing Mr. Moses trying to put on different wigs on his bald head. The two exchange some friendly small talk. Later, he meets with Mr. Walker, who greets him warmly. She expresses her gratitude towards him for giving her a ticket, revealing that it was her favorite show. When Jefferson arrives at the school, the bell rings loudly, which gives him pressure to walk faster. He first enters the main office and accidentally collides with a kid. The mother tells the kids to apologize, and so he does. But when Jefferson is about to give back the comic book that fell, this kid rejects him and shows his frown face to him. Confused, Jefferson enters a room to meet Mrs. Laws. Inside, a mother of one of his students is expressing her disappointment against Jefferson. According to her, he is the reason why her son is now injured. They have taught their son how to fight against bullies, but things changed when their son met Jefferson. Now, her son is rejecting the teachings of her. Full of anger, she says that her son now has a wrong thought about how to fight bullies, which he learned from Jefferson, who taught them to just hide, run, and quickly eat their food to avoid bullies, which is not enough compared to the philosophy of the parents. When the mother is about to spank Jefferson, Mrs. Laws interrupts them. She comforts the mother and gives her assurance that she will handle the situation. Before leaving the room, Mrs. Laws reminds him that he must teach only from the books and not his opinion. Failing to argue his point, Jefferson accepts the order of Mrs. Laws, apologizes to the parents, and exits the room. Later outside the school, he meets his community. They are chit-chatting on how to improve their community. Meanwhile, on the other street, a teenager is being bullied by the gangsters. The teenager is not adhering to their request and trying to stay still. However, the old man crosses the street to rescue him. He collides his arm against the gang, and successfully the magic power inside the glass fell to the ground. These bullies are angry at him. When one of them is about to punch him, his colleague whispers to calm down as the police are near to them. Therefore, this man stops and warns him for trying to stop their actions. The following day, Jefferson is excited to watch a show and slowly runs while holding his huge bass guitar. His mood slowly fades away when his car is not turning on due to out of gas. At this time, he turns around and sees the Castle Hills Community Center. Though it is out of his intention, he enters and sits at the back of his parents. Here inside, a leader is teaching a plan to strengthen the security against the Golden Lords, which is the gang of this community. During the discussion, the community speaks their thoughts and argues that patrolling the streets will not be effective. It shows that their opponent has greater power and needs a more efficient plan. Meanwhile, his father is upset with him. He knows beforehand that Jefferson's intention here isn't to attend the meeting, but to ask for a penny. As soon as his parents give him the money, Jefferson leaves and expresses that the plan is a dumb idea. He then leaves excitedly to see the show, but a disappointing event happens. Someone smashed the glass of his car and took away his radio and bass guitar. At this disappointing moment, he hears the sound of a screaming lady. In a hidden corner, he sees two kids stealing the stuff of the lady. Surprisingly, the stealers are his students. Busted by their teacher, these kids feel embarrassed, and the lady finds her way to escape. However, the entire Golden Lords suddenly reveal themselves from the dark. Afraid, Jefferson runs hurriedly and manages to hide himself inside a huge trash can while the entire Golden Lords are rushing to search for him and split up. At this moment, the cover slowly opens. Luckily, it is his student. When the teacher asks the kid if he finds Jefferson, he decides to cover his teacher. After the Golden Lords leave, Jefferson stays secured inside the trash can and hides for several hours until it is 2:30 in the morning when he decides to go out. While finding his way home, a sound from the sky gets his attention. He lifts his head and sees a gigantic green meteor is about to fall on the ground. He rushes like a flash, but somehow the meteor is trying to follow him. Eventually, Jefferson has no way out and the meteor lands on his body. The meteor slowly enters him, making his body filled with red liquid and scars. A while later, Jefferson rushes to the hospital. Inside the emergency room, the nurse calls the doctor to see that a tiny meteor has entered his arm, which makes everybody in awe. The next morning, the doctors are busy finding out his medical condition. They rush to his room and remove his bandages. Everyone is surprised to see that his face is already healed, like no major burn has happened to him. When one doctor says that just yesterday he was suffering from a third-degree burn, Jefferson accidentally touches the book the doctor's holding and instantly acquires its information. He then interrupts the doctor and explains his situation like a genius. He even demonstrates the explanation by pointing out the exact page of the book where the content can be found. Everyone is surprised by his knowledge, and the doctor challenges him to expound more of his arguments, but later his knowledge disappears. As night falls, he finds that he can hear a sound coming from behind his room and sees clearly what's happening behind the thick wall. Confused and surprised, he checks the windows and hears people discuss various topics, obviously gossip. Also, his sight manages to see them wearing nothing. After all the weird happenings, he decides to use his power in taking advantage to check out the sexy nurse, Vanessa. He quickly pressed the button while creating fantasies in his head. Soon, the nurse arrives, but he quickly covers his eyes because it is a different nurse who comes in, a fat and old lady. Later, Jefferson comes back to his house. His dog barks at him to express his love for missing him so much. Jefferson offers to give him food, however, something strange happens. He understands the bark of his dog. He can't believe it, so he tests Ellington. Jefferson barks to instruct his dog to nod his head, and the dog does so. After several trials, Jeff and Ellington really manage to communicate and understand each other's thoughts. Meanwhile, Michael, his friend, enters his house and Jefferson reveals his acquired superpowers. At first, Michael thinks he is crazy, but Jefferson proves it by telling the content of each book that he touches. Michael is amazed and later figures out that his supernatural power has come from the meteor that entered his body. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a mysterious man controls the television of his neighbor without them knowing it. This man has a tiny portion of a meteor that enables him to have superpower when he is touching it. The following afternoon, in the school, a meeting is happening. One teacher is expressing his disgust against his students. Then Mrs. Laws gives him opportunity to transfer those kids under the supervision of Jefferson. Not long after, Jefferson stands up and shares his philosophy that teaching is not about earning money, it is about passion to train their students while they are still young. However, while explaining, his superpowers suddenly get activated and sees that some students are stealing in the locker room and smashing a car. He is then distracted by what he sees. Jefferson cannot continue his words, but fortunately, a gorgeous girl stands up to continue his piece, and everyone gets amazed on their interconnected philosophy. Before the sun goes down, the Golden Lords pay a visit to the apartment of the Reeds. They tease his father and want to kill him, but Jefferson protects him. Pissed off, two members are about to smash him, but the superpower of Jefferson throws them away when he defends himself. Also, a hunk punches him, but he gets a serious injury as the chest of Jefferson is very solid, like rock. Then another attack happens. They drive the car to hit him, but Jefferson manages to stop them using his hands, and this car stops immediately, causing the people inside to die. His entire family and neighborhood vividly witness everything. However, Jefferson still wants to make his superpower remain unrevealed. When the next day comes, the Golden Lords shoot him with a gun while he is running late on his work. However, all the shots can't harm him. The Golden Lords find it out, so they drive to shoot him one more time. But the superpower of Jefferson saves him, and he manages to fly and hang himself on the street lights. Due to these, the Golden Lords lose their sanity and back out. While hanging on the streetlight, an opened window allows him to see a girl wearing a honeymoon dress. This girl shouts and asks for help from her partner. Scared, Jefferson rushes to go down by jumping from the streetlights. When he lands on the ground, immediately an earthquake happens that parted the ground. Later in his apartment, His father rejoices because he gets home safely. Jefferson gets confused as he doesn't have any idea that his landing is the reason for the earthquake. His father positively expresses that he could be the hope for their community, and not a little longer, his father directs him to show the surprise his mother prepares for him. With all energy and excitement, his mother shows him the customized tailored costume that he could use for his battles. Meanwhile, the head of the Golden Lords shuts his members up while they explain the failure of their mission. This guy can't believe them and argues that it is impossible for one to survive gunshot and fly. The following day, during the meeting of their community, Jefferson receives an honorable name, the Meteor Man, for saving the neighborhood against the Golden Lords. The leader expresses that he must utilize his power for the sake of the community. She also tells that he must wear a uniform and they will sponsor a customized telephone for him to reach easily. Due to this, it helps him develop courage and perseverance to utilize his powers to save his community. Immediately, his mother creates several costumes. She didn't stop making, even she failed many times to hit the quality of a perfect fit for Meteor Man. Aside from this, Jefferson enhances and discovers more of his capacities as Meteor Man. He can now float in the sky, flash lasers, and many more. Finally, after several trials, his mother finally tailored a gray suit with green boots and a long cape. This costume has gotten the approval of the many, and they all agreed that above all the costume she made, this one is the ideal one for Meteor Man. Just then, Jefferson, now as Meteor Man, roams around the community by floating in the air to fulfill his mission as the superhero of their community. First, he rushes open the door where some magic powder dealers are busy packaging the orders of their client. Inside, using the wind from his breath, Meteor Man swept away all the dealers. Second, he flies to an apartment where he saves the expensive television from snatchers who steal it by the fire exit. Third, he brings peace to the elongated war of police officers versus the Street Brothers, restoring the relationship of this community that they have once destroyed. Now, Meteor Man is the talk of the town. He is now famous everywhere. Jefferson's name is publicized through television and headlines of newspapers. There's a lot of testimonies delivering outstanding feedback using a live radio show. On a long table, the cabinet member of the syndicate are expressing their disgust for Meteor Man. Their business goes down because Meteor Man destroys their business. Mr. Byers is outrageously venting out his rants against the superhero for ruining their multi-billion business. He offers a million penny if one of his cabinet members could bring him alive, and he could even double the price if they could kill him. Meanwhile, Meteor Man is busy doing his business. He goes to the abandoned lot full of trash. He throws all of the trash and uses his superpowers to make the soil healthy. In the morning, everyone in the community is rejoicing as the abandoned lot becomes a fantastical garden in the middle of the ghetto with gigantic vegetables that are free for everyone growing in it. However, the gang corners Jefferson inside his classroom, cursing him to admit himself as Meteor Man, but he denies. Fortunately, Michael enters the room and rescues him by telling a lie confidently that Meteor Man has fulfilled a mission a few minutes ago. This lie makes Simon, the leader of the gang, back out as he realizes that Jefferson isn't the Meteor Man, as Meteor Man is busy doing his business saving lives. Yet that night, while he is in a deep sleep, someone enters his unit to steal his costume. The following day, the stealer uses his costume to obtain popularity and attracts gorgeous girls in the city. This fake Meteor Man has no idea that he is being surrounded by the Golden Lords. Fortunately, Jefferson makes his way to save him by secretly destroying the guns of the Golden Lords. When the fake Meteor Man recognizes the group, he tries to escape, but everywhere he goes, there's a member of the Golden Lords waiting for the signal of Simon to fetch him. Therefore, Jefferson controls the fake Meteor Man to fly using his fingers. But unfortunately, Simon and one of his colleagues are able to find out that it's Jefferson who controls the fake Meteor Man to fly. During the evening, Jefferson receives a prank from his community. He gets happy when he figures out the prank is just the front of a nice surprise. The heart behind the surprise is to honor him as he is able to make the community safe again. Yet in the middle of the party, a loud gunshot interrupts them. They all rush to see what's happening outside, and it is the Golden Lords. Simon says that he is there to deliver a message and instructs his troops to fire at them, but Jefferson is able to protect all of the people fast as Flash using his superpowers. But after, he realizes that he cannot be successful in saving everyone. When the morning comes, Mr. Byers and his members pay him a visit to his unit. They destroy his doors, but fortunately, his dog is able to hide him. Despite the loud banging, he can't wake up because he is regaining his superpower. Simon and Michael know that he is slowly losing his powers the past few days, and he starts to bleed when the bullet hits him. Also, the more he uses his superpower, the more it drains his body, and sleep is the only way to charge himself and restore his superpower. After resting, he walks on the street and sees how the Golden Lords is invading their community. Each house is filled with vandalism, stating the logo of their opponent. Everyone are all together inside the community center, gathering for a meeting. Jefferson joins the meeting as well and silently observes their agenda. He hears that the entire community is blaming him for the tragedy that happened to their community. Everyone is about to cast their vote in order for Jefferson to leave their community and make a deal with the Golden Lords for their safety. However, Jefferson interrupts them and tells them that there's no need to vote because he volunteers to leave. He expresses his disappointment as everyone wants to have a change, but they are not making an effort to bring a change. Moments after, inside his room, Michael is comforting Jefferson before he leaves. But when he is ready to leave, a huge bang alarms the community, and Simon shouts to ask him to come out. With all this might, Jefferson walks down to face the Golden Lords. Simon pulls a prank to shake his hand as a sign of peace with him. However, when Jefferson gives him his hand, Simon immediately beats him. At this point, Jefferson is powerless. All he could do is stretch his might using his normal strength. The neighbors are dying inside, watching Jefferson beaten up by the Golden Lords. When Simon is about to shoot him, Mr. Moses joins the commotion by targeting the gun using his vintage vinyls. And later, the students of Jefferson, who is part of the Golden Lords, kick the gun of Simon and throw it to save his teacher, Jefferson. Besides, the mysterious man, who also has a piece of the meteorite, helps the fight by throwing off their guns using his powers. Since the Golden Lords are slightly powerless, the entire community joins the fight using some household resources. In the fight, the piece of meteorite falls on the floor by accident and rolls down near Simon and Jefferson. Both of them race to get the meteorite, and for some reason, they both obtain the power given by the meteorite. The fight continues until Jefferson touches the book that happens to be the life of Bruce Lee. Everyone gets scared as Jefferson weirdly moves to resemble a martial artist, but when the effects reach their limits, he again touches the book, but this time he touches the wrong book. He throws the book to Simon. Out of his ignorance, Simon catches the book, and the content of the book takes effect and he starts to ramp like a model. However, as the fight continues, Simon is able to knock him out. He rejoices as he assumes Jefferson is dead, but seconds after, Jefferson calls his attention wearing his Meteor Man costume. Jefferson immediately knocks out Simon and transfers the power that Simon received from the meteorite. Seeing that Simon is powerless, the entire Golden Lords back out and run as they admit internally that they cannot defeat Meteor Man. Soon after, Mr. Myers, together with his team, shows up, assuming that they can kill Meteor Man, but later the friends of Meteor Man join the commotion and surround the place. Due to these, the syndicates hurriedly get into their car feeling scared, but the policemen barricade the road. The movie ends when Meteor Man thanks his friend for helping him to win the battle against his opponent. This movie achieves the ideal mix between comedy and drama, with plenty of belly laughs offset, sobering themes of community responsibility, and the ability of one individual to change the world. Jefferson's persona was likable and genuine, which made it simple for one to support him as he tries to figure out how to use his abilities for good. Important social issues, including poverty, crime, and the death of positive role models in inner-city communities, are also addressed in Meteor Man. The movie conveys the strong idea that change can begin with modest deeds. Its portrayal of a neighborhood banding together to fight crime and enhance the quality of life for its citizens is both uplifting and motivating. Overall, Meteor Man is a movie that will enthrall and motivate audiences. It's a heartwarming film that will make you laugh, cry, and reflect. It serves as a reminder that every one of us possesses the ability to change the world and that one individual can make a difference. Fans of superhero movies or anyone searching for a touching tale of empowerment and optimism should not miss it.